Once again into the breach, my friends, as I tackle another 10 questions that supposedly should be asked of atheists, ostensibly about evolution, by a theist who has no idea what evolution is. We're in the bonus round, extra questions that apparently clarify things he's already asked, but in reality often just ask the same thing in another way. I feel like I've already explained some of this, but hopefully you can get something useful out of it. If nothing else, the ability to laugh at the truly credulous. So here we go again. So this takes us down to the question on Mount Rushmore, where he poses a couple of additional questions. Which answer is more rational, chance or intelligent design? Well, since he said rational, and that means based on or in accordance with reason or logic, then chance is more rational, even though that's not what anybody says happened. Relying on a completely unfounded assertion about an imaginary man in the sky that just poofed everything into existence is not rational, period. What would you think of me if I denied the great works of art were created by the great masters, that they all happened by chance? Well, I'd think you were an idiot, but since I think you're an idiot now, that really doesn't change anything. But we know that paintings come about because humans create them. We have absolutely no instances of paintings that just appear naturally. As I said before, we have lots of expertise in determining the difference between something natural and something man-made, and that comes from thousands of years of observing nature. But in all that time, we've never once observed an actual God. Not once. Why is that? When you see a skyscraper like Sears Tower in Chicago, isn't that empirical proof that there was an designer and a builder, even though you've never seen him? Well, we actually do know who designed the Sears Tower in Chicago, and there are plenty of pictures of him doing it. Because skyscrapers don't come from nature, they demonstrably come from humans, we know how this works. When do you think you're going to get around to demonstrating that a God actually exists? Think about what you are seeing in this picture. How does that logic also not apply to this system of sun, moon, and stars? So here's the picture he's talking about, and honestly, if that picture ever happened in reality, we'd all be in serious trouble. Planetary dynamics doesn't work that way. But all these questions keep coming around to the same thing, and I hate to be repetitive. We know the difference between design and nature. This is nature. There's no reason to think there was a designer at all, and the religious have certainly not managed to provide any evidence that any such designer actually exists in reality. Can you honestly say that you believe this system so vast, complex, and orderly could have made itself? Well, it's literally impossible for anything to make itself. The laws of nature interacted in such a way that the planets and stars came into existence through natural forces. In fact, we see stars being generated all the time out in space. We can watch stellar nurseries and see new stars being born. Or are we supposed to believe God is still out there making them one at a time? There are an estimated 100 to 400 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. The entire galaxy of stars rotates at a speed that will allow them to complete one revolution every 250 million years. They all stay in place like a giant cosmic Ferris wheel. Alright, first off, that's just a wrong statement. There are an estimated 100 billion solar masses in our galaxy. That means 100 billion times the solar mass of our star. There could be up to 400 billion actual stars, but if you're going to quote the internet, at least know what the hell you're talking about. And then he goes into a whole list of questions that, frankly, I got no interest in answering. I mean, science understands all of them, and I could direct him to resources that would explain it, but we all know he'd never bother because he doesn't really care about any of the answers to his questions. I've yet to find one that can't be answered, but he's got an agenda, and reality is not on his agenda. So frankly, I'm getting tired of his supposed questions on logic, most of which have nothing at all to do with logic, so I'm going to jump around a little. Let's go to science, where, following his question about imagining nothing exists, he says, there is one thing that all scientists, philosophers, and theologians agree on, and it's this. You only have two choices. Either God is eternal and uncreated, or matter is eternal and uncreated, right? Nope. Not even close. Nobody but a complete imbecile would say that, which I guess proves something. That's a false dichotomy. There aren't only two choices, and most scientists say nothing about God. Einstein's theory of relativity, which is a mathematical equation, math being a perfect science, provided proof that the universe and time itself had a beginning. Since we know that nothing comes from nothing, what option does that leave you? First off, math isn't a perfect science. Math isn't a science at all. Math is a description of reality. But what does that leave us? That there's something beyond the universe. That something doesn't have to be a god. In fact, we have no evidence whatsoever that any gods exist, but there may very well be something, maybe a lot of somethings, outside of our particular universe, and one of those somethings might have started off our universe. In fact, there's an idea that our universe sparks off other universes all the time. We don't know for sure, but it's sure a lot better than an imaginary friend in the sky. Einstein's discovery revealed that we live in a three-dimensional world, time, space, and matter, which is energy. Interestingly, the Bible starts out, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." In the beginning, that's time. God created, that's energy. The heavens, that's space. And the earth, that's matter. How do you suppose the Bible got that right? Well, actually, there's a lot more than three dimensions, but I'm not going to quibble over his obvious ignorance. But this kind of ridiculous rationalization with the Bible is just laughable. Genesis starts off with a classic literary form, the same used by most fairy tales. Once upon a time. Amazing how all those classic fairy tales got it right too, huh? Moving on to his question about the universe being governed by immaterial laws, and I'll make this last one a twofer. Where did these laws, not suggestions, come from? Well, I answered that. He seems to think that there's some kind of cosmic cops running around with a law book, keeping the quarks of the universe on the straight and narrow. And that's not how this works. The laws are a description of what we've observed in the universe, on how matter and energy interact. It wasn't something we made up to force matter to remain orderly. It's something that matter naturally does, and we just described it. Secondly, don't these laws show power, authority, design, and mathematical precision beyond anything man can conceive of? Well, apparently not, because we're able to describe what we saw in a way that makes sense. We examined the universe and then described what we saw in a consistent manner, and our description seems to be accurate because the universe continues to operate that way. And where we're not accurate, we simply change our descriptions to something that is. He doesn't understand how things actually work, which I guess I can't be surprised at, considering what he actually believes. You know, I just went and counted everything on his list with a question mark at the end, and he just might make it to 100 yet, or at least get pretty close. But with the way he's formatting things, it's really a little hard to keep it straight. Still, I guess it's better than those crazy end times web pages with all the flashing text and all the changing font sizes every other word, so I guess I'll be thankful for small favors. So everybody, let me know what you think. Are you getting anything out of examining these additional questions, or is it just covering the same material time and time again? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again next time.